missile program is racing ahead.
Mr. President, will you attack North Korea?
And U.S. President Donald Trump is using language that we've never heard a president using on Korea.
Fire and fury.
And that's led to open talk about military options on the Korean Peninsula, something that you generally don't hear very often.
We have many military options, and the president wanted to be briefed on each one of them.
A war would put the lives of millions of civilians at risk, so it's still an extremely unlikely scenario.
But if it were to happen, here's how experts see it playing out. What could trigger a military intervention?
Experts say the U.S. could take action to stop Pyongyang from developing a nuclear-tipped missile capable of reaching New York or Washington. The U.S. has also warned North Korea that it could take military action if North Korea were to engage in a particularly provocative fashion.
Any threat to the United States or its territories, including Guam or our allies, will be met with a massive military response.
Analysts say that Pyongyang is highly unlikely to start a conflict unless it believes that the U.S. is about to strike and that the regime itself is under threat. In times of high stress, even a mishap could become a trigger, like a North Korean missile test that inadvertently lands onto Japanese soil, or a disaster like an accident at North Korea's nuclear reactor. So what would a U.S. military operation look like? Washington could try to take Kim Jong-un's regime by surprise and conduct a short, intense military campaign.
What happened is a massive American air campaign. That was the plan in 1994 for the beginning of the North Korean nuclear program. So I have the feeling that the Americans would target a lot of North Korean facilities in a big, big strike.
American military could rely on forces already in the region in order to avoid tipping off North Korea, such as using aerial bombers, land-based cruise missiles, and submarine-launched ballistic missiles.
Through surgical strikes, the U.S. Army would destroy Pyongyang's nuclear facilities, missile launch sites, and mobile launch vehicles. But there's a catch. The U.S. may not know where all of the North's nuclear assets and its missile facilities are.
Wars are never as simple as they may seem at first.
One thing I will not allow is a nation such as Iraq.
And as history shows, it's highly unlikely that the U.S. could avoid a more strenuous confrontation.
Once military action is taken, it is hard to predict the exact consequences.
If Pyongyang judges that the regime itself is under direct threat, they may respond in even more aggressive ways.
It could mobilize its conventional weapons near the demilitarized zone to attack U.S. and South Korean military forces in the region, as well as Seoul and its surroundings, a metropolitan area of 25 million. North Korea could also use its vast network of secret tunnels to move troops around the country and perhaps even send soldiers to the south. But analysts say these strategies would expose the North Korean army to counterattacks. The regime could even turn to weapons of mass destruction. That includes banned chemical weapons such as sarin and VX gas. However, intelligence analysts at Stratfor say that only 1% of North Korea's likely stockpile of chemical weapons could be deployed immediately, since North Korea doesn't have enough warheads. And then there are the nuclear weapons. That's the most catastrophic scenario.
They could potentially target U.S. facilities, again, in places like Guam and in places like Japan with the nuclear weapons.
Dropping a nuclear bomb on Seoul would put North Korea's own existence at stake.
You could just drop them on large civilian agglomerations like Seoul and kill 1 million people. That's really risky, though, because once you start doing that, then the whole world turns against you.
The tragedy of war is well enough known. It doesn't need another characterization beyond the fact that it would be catastrophic.